Welcome back to Mac Football Forever. My name is Caleb Carter. Seated to my imaginary right, left, which direction? Is Alex Alvarez.
My right, left?
My left, right? My right, left guy. My guy who just cannot get enough of me, Alex, with that cute haircut. Look at this guy. We're here to talk.
Haircut? What are you talking about? Dude, this has been like 3 weeks. I need to get a haircut.
Your hair to stay short. You look great, friend.
I mean, you remember it when it was long as shit during the pandemic, but like,
right.
I mean, this is still pretty long for me.
Yeah.
I mean, thank you, but it has been like 4 weeks.
Take the compliment.
3 or 4 weeks.
God, learn to take a compliment. Anyway, we're here to talk about Mac football, not Alex's haircut. Jeez, look at this guy getting us on a tangent. So yeah, draft's coming up. I think we've had we've provided some decent Mac football draft stuff for our listeners' entertainment. Today we're going to go and take a look at where we think some guys are going to fall early on the board, and maybe not the exact pick, but just kind of what order Mac football players are going to be in. We're pretty much in agreement on who the number one guy is going to be, but we're going to explore who we think those next three picks are going to be. And then we're going to give you a little tidbit that maybe helps out those people who are really draft nerds and they're wondering who really should be higher. We're going to spend some time talking about who we think our guy is that is going to go higher than maybe they're projected, or maybe they just, put some respect on their name. They need to go higher. So I guess just for starters, Alex, who do we agree is the consensus number one pick in the NFL draft from the MAC this year?
Oh, well, that's me.
You're my first pick in my book every
yes,
day.
I will play. Yes, I will gladly and happily be a surprise first round pick by the Baltimore Ravens to be their new backup quarterback. A lot of people didn't see that coming, but that is why Cleveland made that pick. I am a great MAC prospect, not as talented as Lamar Jackson, but in creative player, I can be.
Listen, this guy, widens the playbook immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Your ability to open things up and just throw things at opposing defenses you wouldn't have been able to do previously, it just intensifies times.
Now, okay, I shouldn't give out my secrets, but the reason I can stretch out the playbook as much as I do is because I use bigger paper. That's it.
I trust smaller figurines on the paper. That's the secret.
Did I ruin the show enough for you yet?
Listen, if they haven't tuned out already, they must be really interested in where these Mac guys are going. So
okay, but we agree though. Our unanimous first Mac guy taken in this draft cycle in 2021, it's going to be Dwayne Eskridge, the receiver out of Western Michigan. No,
we're smart.
Yeah, I mean, we're not. Anybody that doesn't know MAC football already knows that Dwayne Eskridge is the best player in the conference. And he had to, and we didn't know that because, that's, the hype he had coming into the year, right? He earned it in the pandemic season. He's, one of the most athletically gifted receivers in the conference. He's an elite runner, and he plays receiver incredibly well. It's not like he is just super fast and is very secondary to the football stuff. The football stuff eventually came natural, but not as natural as his 4.3 speed.
Yeah, and so we're looking at a guy that is projected late second round pick by really most experts I've seen. Looking at a list today, I'm mostly kind of looking at a CBS Sports projection of picks, just their prospect rankings. So kind of just rolling with that for today. But yeah, I think we can pretty much agree that he's significantly better analyzed in terms of pro potential than anybody else. So I think we can comfortably move ahead to number one. I'll go ahead and start. And here's a guy we actually are more far apart on than I thought we would be. And I think for different reasons, and we have different ideas of, how good this guy can be. So Jarrett Patterson out of Buffalo. He is for me, I see the potential downsides in him as a runner. He's not any more explosive than a lot of guys around where he's projected, which is essentially fifth round type guy, right? And could go later. I do think that he, because of his potential as like a really good backup running back, that it makes sense where he's going, and as a fifth round, maybe as a fifth round pick or late fourth round pick, somebody's going to get something good out of him. You don't have to be a 1,000 yard back, 1,500 yard back to make a difference in the NFL right now, and to really add something to an offense. So for me, Jarrett Patterson is the second guy off the board from the MAC.
Yeah, I mean, he's not higher up on my list. Patterson, like, I'm not sleeping on the guy. Like, I'm very aware of how awesome he is. I've been very aware ever since this freshman year. Wasn't born yesterday in this MAC world. But Patterson, like I said, in my podcast, hopefully you're listening to this, to hopefully listen to this too. Patterson, he doesn't have like the elite traits that a lot of other running backs, or well above average traits that a lot of the other running backs in this draft class will have. Like Patterson at the end of the day might end up being like the 13th running back we hear. I mean, Heisman Trophy favorites at some point in their lives, like Chuba Hubbard, like he won't even be the 9th running back probably. And so there's just a lot of competition for Patterson to even make the initial rosters, let alone make the final cuts. I wonder what sort of role like teams would want Jarrett Patterson in the first place. I don't think he's going to be relied on as a 3-down back like that. There's a lot of things he got away with and benefited from having played in the MAC East for such a long time. He's not going to have those same sort of, that same sort of schedule to look forward to. So I don't know how much of how good he was in college will be able to translate in the NFL. And that's why I'm kind of skittish on him. Quentin Morris, though, that's my pick. Quentin Morris is my pick. I think he's, he was a skilled receiver. He put on weight pretty well at Bowling Green, tried some new things. I don't know how good of a blocker he'll be at the next level, but as a pass catcher at that position where that position is growing and he has the size to pull it off, I think Quentin Morris could be getting some earlier looks, especially if teams prioritize tight ends so highly.
It's so weird because I feel like the words we've used to describe how well we think of some of these guys are contrasting with like where we're projecting them.
There's a difference with like when we talk about them in real time in the college game, and then like, okay, now how do they compare to like 27-year-old professionals? How do they actually compare?
Sure. And Quentin Morris is the type of guy I'm super high on. I think I've been more excited about his pro potential than Alex, and I don't think Morris is even getting drafted, even though he was a Senior Bowl guy. So I think that he has a lot of pro potential. I've talked about it. If you listen to Alvarado on Maction episode, you'll throw a reference in there.
Yeah, you said the whole last name. I love you for it.
Right. Anyway, I think that he has as much potential as really anybody in this, about as anybody other than not named Eskridge in this draft class, but he's not projected high. I haven't really seen any mocks that have him higher than the 7th round. Maybe his Senior Bowl performance kind of helped him out a little bit, or Shrine Bowl performance rather, whichever it is. I lose track at this point, but I really do not see him going higher than the 7th. And that's not to say that they're right to grade him out lower. I think he's better than a lot of tight ends who are projected 6th, 7th round, but it's not going to surprise me at all if he's not drafted. And for him, I don't really think that would necessarily be a bad thing. So I think he'll be able to make something work regardless, but I digress from that. Let's move on to another pick that I think we're probably in a little bit more agreement on. The projected number 3 pick in a lot of people's books, some people have him higher, is Malcolm Coons from Buffalo. What do you know? Another good prospect from the Bulls. And really, he again, we've talked about him in the past, a 3-4 outside edge type dude, and probably playing left or right more than downhill. And he's got potential. A lot of guys like him. I know I've brought it up before too. Some major draft analysts have talked about why they like him and what he could do in a defense as a role player. So I think he's got to go after Patterson. I think there are a couple guys who could sneak up there in front of him, but I think he absolutely is your third guy off the board from the MAC.
Yeah, he was definitely like someone that you and I really, really liked as just an overall defensive prospect heading into the 2020 season before the pandemic, of course. Didn't live up to the hype that I thought that he could have had. Like 2019 was really good. He's really like physical on impact, but like long distance where he has to like chase someone and make plays, he's just not going to be that guy to do it, or hasn't shown it, I should say. So I do worry like what his limitations are. But I did, he's good. He fits a need that defenses are switching to, or just kind of need that sort of edge roll in. So hopefully he can grow into that, but he's not like overly dominant, overly big, like incredibly versatile. Like we've seen other defensive ends that, like Max Crosby, he doesn't have that kind of like versatility and like range of motion, but he could still find a way to create like fumbles and whatnot the same way Crosby would. So there are things that Coons has going for him.
In small increments, he could create impact plays, the type that, somebody you're going to remember that Coons made a big play. Like he's not going to maybe grade out excellent every game, but he's one who has high potential to make plays. So I think it's fair to say that he should be one of the first 4 guys off the board, maybe. Carrying on the trend of Bulls players, why don't we just go ahead and talk about another guy from Buffalo? Because Kayode Oshika has, not amazing like athletic intangibles, but he's a big guy who's run blocked for years. He's played tackle and is expected to have the versatility to move inside, play a guard. And, I think we have a lot to be optimistic for in terms of his potential to play at the pro level and be involved in the game of football because of his intelligence. So I feel pretty comfortable that he's in that kind of that maybe 3rd or 4th pick from the MAC. He could fall. It wouldn't be terrible, but I think that because of what he offers and consistency up in the brain and his ability to be a little bit more versatile, I think that he projects pretty easily at 3rd or 4th.
Yeah, I don't see like a clear path for him getting onto like a 53-man roster quickly. But I do see that the long road traveled will be sped up from his like 28 reps on the bench press and his intelligence, like you said. And if you listen to this channel before, like you've heard an interview with him that you've had, Caleb, really smart guy. A lot of people love him, and we can clearly, if you listen to it, you would know that in less than the 15 minutes spent with him. Yeah. So he's definitely someone to watch out for. But the guy that I think has the better chance to get drafted, though, is Antonio Phillips, the corner from Ball State. Locked it down on his side of the field for 4 years. So I think that experience is definitely going to pay off. Showed that his on-ball skills didn't drop off from the year of, not being able to prepare like normal. So the 2020 college season is definitely where experience pays off. Hopefully that will continue on to, showcasing his abilities in front of coaches and whatnot in the NFL ranks. Sure. But like we said on the podcast, and you said it really, like what's his true strength though? I don't 100% know. Right now I'm saying that it's probably his experience though. Sure.
Yeah. I mean, maybe just, being versatile in the sense of being able to be on the field in a lot of different defenses. I don't know if he's a pure coverage guy, if he's a nickel guy, what his potential is at that respect. Him and Rugamba, Manny Rugamba from Miami are both like fringe 7th round guys anyway. So either one of those guys, it wouldn't be far-fetched to see them get drafted, and they could be right at the tail end of the draft potentially. So we'll see. We'll see about Phillips. At the end of the day, there are other guys who could get drafted. I do think it is pertinent to us to maybe have one more chance to say who really should be drafted higher than they're being projected or what people expect of them. And for me, that's Tommy Doyle, a guy who I think actually had a little bit higher stock before he came back. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like he was maybe seen as like a 5th or 6th round guy, and now it doesn't appear like that's the case. Big dude, 6'8", could put on some weight. Will probably at 335, 340. He's going to be able to play right tackle in the NFL. I really do see that working out for him. Hopefully he's as good as I expect, and has been coached up well, has the size, has been long thought as a pro prospect. So let's see it happen. I mean, I know we at least somewhat agree in that respect, but I know there was somebody that do you think deserves even more hype in terms of what their potential is?
Yeah. So to be clear, we're talking about guys that should be drafted higher than what they will be, right?
Yeah.
And Doyle, he definitely fits that bill. I think he's definitely a good lineman, smart kid and all that stuff, and has plenty of experience that should pay off in the long run. Speaking of long run, Dwayne Eskridge, he is capable of all of those long runs. I think he can make small slants into 84-yard touchdowns, you know, multiple times a season. The value in that is going to go a long way. I know he didn't grade out as great as some of the other receivers did, you know, like Kadarius Toney. Like I think like Toney and like Elijah Moore, those are a couple of receivers by and large that are probably going to be picked before Eskridge.
Mm-hmm.
I think Eskridge, man, like if given enough trust and just enough time to like really finish up being like a crafted wide receiver, because remember, like, you know, he's like changed times like here and there, like receiver, cornerback, don't know where he's going to be, don't know how it's going to work out. Obviously, he figured out that wide receiver, like he's very good at being just a very good wide receiver. I wonder if he can be like a number one at the NFL level. I really think that ceiling is there for him.
Yeah.
I don't think like anyone's going to be dumb for like, you know, like why are you sleeping on him? Why are you picking him in the third round or late second round? Like, I get that that's a realistic ceiling and like it's earned, it really is. But I also think that if given the true chance, I think he can play up to being a number one receiver on the field. I think he can end up being like that Mac guy that like holy shit, like he's not going to be Kenny Galladay, but he's still going to be a number one. You know, he doesn't have to be. He can be better than Corey Davis even. I think he might end up having a better career than Corey Davis.
That's actually not far-fetched, and I think that's actually a fair talking point that Davis has been a good, serviceable NFL wide receiver who was drafted top 10, and it's probably fair to say Eskridge could be better. He's not going to be the same type of receiver as Corey Davis, and they shouldn't really want him to be because
no, they should want him to be better and have him be himself. Yeah. And like he's just an elite ass runner, and like a lot of guys are running 4.3s. I get that, and I'm not saying like the pro day numbers are like lying or whatever. They probably are, but I don't care. Like that speed is real on him. Yeah. And like it's been around like his whole adult life.
To be moved up, somebody's got to see him as better than like Terrence Marshall Jr. of LSU, Elijah Moore of Ole Miss, and maybe even like Rashad Bateman at Minnesota, but Bateman also I like as a wide receiver too. So I don't know. I just don't see him moving up much from like late second round, and I don't know that he warrants more of the excitement because
but I could also
the wide receiver class is just really good. Is really really good.
Yeah, I could also see it end up being like a situation where like, you know, like a lot of the street receivers that like we know around the nation that are going to be drafted higher than him probably will be, but he'll still be like one of the early ones when it's all said and done. But I could also see him being like the first wide receiver taken for a team. You know what I mean? Like like I'm speaking as a Lions fan. If they did a scenario where like they drafted, like they prioritized defense early on in the first and second rounds and then waited until the third or like something like that to get Eskridge, I could see that being a scenario where like he might not be like prospect number one for them, but he's definitely like skilled offensive player that like they're prioritizing, but they know they can wait on. I could see that being a thing.
And I think that if teams are like, say they need a number 2 receiver and it's like a priority for them to expand their offense, I think that's actually where Eskridge is the best fit as a number 2. I really think that he'll be a really good number 2 in the NFL.
Yeah. I also think it's like worth pointing out that like he hasn't been like the man like for a very long time at Western Michigan. It's only come up through this pandemic year. And I think it's all very true that like he's an incredible receiver, but I think it's also worth like the knock that like, hey, where was the production all these other years though? And I think it's fair to say like he just now put it all together, but he really did put it together.
and they enabled it finally. Like Western had to actually make it happen for him too. It wasn't just all on his shoulders.
Yes.
So, we gave a lot of lip service to these guys. I think there's some more guys we didn't mention today, obviously, that stand a decent to okay chance of being drafted. A lot of reason to be excited about guys at the top of this draft and the potential for some other guys who are going to be drafted later who could turn in some decent NFL careers. So I'm super excited. I'm a little more excited actually right now after talking about this than I was even like an hour ago. So part of it's the coffee, part of it's the fact that, hey, MAC football hasn't been played for a few months and I miss that shit. So fun to talk about the potential for these guys, and we'll keep talking about them more as time goes on. So Alex, any parting words for people about how excited they should be about this?
If you're actually excited about it, prove it by listening to my podcast.
Hey, give us a.
We chatted for a long time about it, and like you and I gave like a long time on it. Broke it up into 2 episodes. I think it's necessary. So, if you're actually interested and want to spend more time with it, really do check out the podcast.
If you want to hear us talk about the same guy for like 7 to 8 minutes, absolutely tune in into that. If you want that insight, more sight, foresight stuff, tune in to Alvarado on Action. But for us, this is going to be all for today. If you're looking for more MAC NFL type stuff, obviously you should tell us. You should say, here's what I want to know about the current incoming draft class, or where guys project, or what you think. So follow us on Twitter, MacFB Forever. Follow me at Caleb_M_Carter. You can follow Alex if you want, I guess. I mean, he has insights and things, right? Still,
I have a perspective. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying I have a perspective.
So obviously look for that. If you're looking on Twitter, you're looking in the YouTube description links, or the YouTube description, you'll find more information about where to follow stuff then. But for now, that's all from us. So thanks for joining us. For Alex Alvarado, I'm Caleb Carter. Thanks for joining us in MAC Football Forever.